Bienvenidos and welcome to another segment of La Platica with Dr. Jose Leyba. We have so many exciting news for our program. First, the acquisition of Latino USA TV by co-owners Gil Bivens and Roman Reyes. And we're excited to let you know, our public know, that we now have Arizona Barrio Stories Phoenix, Arizona Barrio Stories Tucson, and Latino USA in Puerto Peñasco, Mexico, i.e. Rocky Point. But today, I'm most excited, humbled, and honored to introduce our next guest, Damian Figueroa, a social justice activist, filmmaker, author. He's done so many things for our community, an artist, a singer, and we're here today to talk about his life story because I think it's very important for our community to see him as a role model of someone that's dedicated his life to making this country and the set of our community much better. And so you're going to hear his life through his eyes. Welcome, David. How are you today?
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm humbled to be here. I mean, to take the time to want to know about my life story is very humbling.
Now, I read where one of your productions, a documentary, La Cosecha, The Harvest, really captures where you learned to be a social activist, working as a child in the fields. Tell us about those experiences, David.
Well, the experiences, well, you know, we were not working in the fields. Well, actually, we worked in the fields here in Buckeye, Arizona, and Arcagila and all those areas like that. But we were working in the fields, not like as regular employees.
Right.
We were working the fields in the summers, school vacations, and on the weekends. My mother was one of those, one of the field workers, and that really set the pace and the tone of the person I feel that I am today. I remember my mom. You know, we were in the fields, and I would say, "Mommy, it's hot, it's hot," and she goes, "Say barbas de oro, and repeat it over and over. And for those that don't speak Spanish, it's man of golden beard, the man of the golden beard. And then she goes, and the wind will start blowing. And lo and behold, in the desert, there's always a dust devil that pops up. And, you know, I said, "Mommy, look at that dust devil. You look at that." And she goes, "So the wind is blowing." And she goes, "You see, you made that happen. You made that happen." And so that kind of set also you know, a very powerful example, an indelible impression in my head that, you know, you could actually, in order for something to actually become reality, you needed to visualize it first. And I think that, you know, when you speak of the harvest and you speak of, you know, the projects that I worked on, you know, I really believe you have to see them. You have to see the finished product, and you have to see the whole journey of how you get there and the progress. If you can't do that, it's not going to happen, at least not for me. But that's been a very powerful tactic. And
wow,
the other
you know, excuse me for interrupting, but I'm so moved by that because many of our experiences like that, we were not also as children, not migrants, even though we live in a migrant camp, but we worked during the summers. You know, whenever there was work, we would go do that. And I think that gave you the heart and the inspiration to put the energy and effort and love that you put into the movie La Cosecha, The Harvest. So I'm so impressed by that. I'm sorry, but I just had to interject.
So you know, that came to be, we were invited, my comadre, who's, you know, the actress Eva Longoria, and she's now a producer and a studio mogul. But this was in 2009. We came to the Cesar Chavez event. We were flying down. And she goes, "You want to go to I'm getting an award at the Cesar Chavez event." And I said, "You are?" And so we had, you know, I'll backtrack a little bit. I told Eva, I said, you know, she was at the peak of Desperate Housewives. And there was probably one of the most famous women in the world at the time. Still is.
Definitely.
And she had said, you know, I told her, I said, you know, now that you have everybody's attention, you know, now that you have this huge platform, you know, what is your message? What are you going to be about? What are you going to say? And during that time, I introduced her to Antonia Hernandez, who is the former president and general counsel of Maldev. I introduced her to Dolores Huerta. And I told her, you know, I told her what I knew that I felt needed to have more attention, and that was the farm worker issue. Because, you know, my family grew up as farm workers, and there was still a lot of injustices happening, even to this day. But I told her, this is you know, you with this international platform can bring very, you know, big time awareness especially in the area where children are concerned, because today it's perfectly legal for children to still work in the fields. You can get a job in working in the fields as a minor, but you can't at McDonald's. And why is that? You know, antiquated laws. And I said, this is something that, you know, we could really move towards, you know. So we worked 3 years on that film, La Cosecha, The Harvest, The Children Who Feed America. And it was with the Academy Award winning team, Shine Global. So, you know, that came to be as, you know, we're traveling to Phoenix to the Cesar Chavez UFW Awards here. And she says, I have this film that's, you know, that I'm going to be a part of, and I want you to be a part of it.
Wow, what an amazing story. Well, that's how we first met. You know, how ironic, right?
Yes.
That we met in 2009. And I have
Full
to give,
circle.
Right, I have to give a shout out to Francisca Montoya. She was the director in Phoenix of the Cesar Chavez Foundation, who asked me and a good colleague of mine, Yoli Aleman Rodriguez, to please be your escorts and your guides for you and Eva. And so I just want to thank you for helping her discover her sense of social justice. So let's move on a little bit. And what other parts of your life have made such a difference that caused you to now move back to Phoenix after having lived in Los Angeles?
Well, I moved back to the Tucson area, you know, and I'm back here in Phoenix, and this is full circle because I went to one of the many schools I went to was Monroe, and Monroe used to be right around the corner from here.
It's a museum now, you know.
And I'll go back and, you know, Linda Ronstadt is a friend, and she's from Tucson.
Right.
And, you know, I got to know her very well during SB 1070 lawsuits and that we filed when I was at MALDEF under the leadership of Tom Sines. And so I told Linda, I said, you know, we're gonna sue the state of Arizona and Jam Brewer and the Minutemen and Sheriff Arpaio, and we need your support. And she goes, well, count me in. And so we all came to the Capitol here.
Correct.
And we did this big press conference, and if you look it up on YouTube, it's all there. You know, Dolores Huerta, Richard Chavez, Cesar Chavez's brother, and that's all things that happened through, you know, through my eagerness to want to, you know, make things equal, you know, and we just knew that it was very wrong. So, you know, that was that was a very full circle moment for me. But I ended up going back to Tucson. Linda, you know, her niece was in a group called Up With People, and I had traveled the year before, and it's based out of Tucson. And she goes, why don't you perform anymore? And I said, well, I'd like to just record. She goes, why don't you meet my brother Michael? And so we ended up doing a couple of albums together that I produced and sang on.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, there's so many amazing stories because we all know Linda as a beautiful singer and artist, but we don't know that social justice side of her. And those of us that experienced 1070B and Sheriff Joe, and we marched in the streets, and finally he was run out of office. Remember those days, but thank you for your support at that time. That was so critical, that time at the Capitol, to changing the state of Arizona so much. So anyways, continue on.
Well, she mentioned that, you know, I got invited to, on the second film we did was called Food Chains. Eva and I worked on a film called Food Chains, and it was critically acclaimed. It opened up in Berlin, went to Sundance, won an award there at the Collective, Tribeca, and all of that. And so we got an invite to go to Common Ground on the border in Green Valley. And I told Linda I was going back, you know, and she goes, there's this woman there, her name is Shura Wallen. And Shura, she goes, you got to meet her, she's incredible. In fact, in her latest book, Linda's latest book, it's called Feels Like Home, there's a whole chapter that she dedicates to Shura. So I go back and, you know, they're getting ready to do the screening, and I said, you know, to Linda's brother, Michael, I said, hey, where's Shura? And so she happened to be right behind me. The next day, we went to the border. She took me to the migrant center, the Keno Migrant Center. Correct. And to the shelters and all of that. And I just was hooked. I felt, you know, very much at home. And so I kept coming back every year. And then except during COVID. And each time I would tell Shura, I said, I want to do a documentary on you, because I think this is very powerful, the work that you all are doing here. And it's you know, they have 300 volunteers, white volunteers, and they do God's work there. They feed, clothe, just doing incredible work in the desert, at the wall, and in the shelters there.
Well, you know, David, I know that you were recently down at the border, and as we close up with this first segment, I want to let our public know that we are doing another 3 segments on your life story because it's so important to us. And I think it's a great model and a call to action for social justice for our community. I know that our son, who's a teacher at Brophy Prep, takes kids down to work at the Keno Border Initiative at the home there, providing food, clothing, and support and prayers for the migrants. And also we have one of our colleagues here from Tolleson, who has her own State Farm agency, Yoli Aleman Rodriguez. Her and her husband actually acquired the funding to help build the center, and she's a big proponent of the annual Keno Border Initiative luncheon. So I want all of us to take a call to action from a role model who has stood up for the people that need it the most. So let's conclude this first segment, David, and maybe just a little bit more about your mom in a couple of minutes so that people see what a wonderful woman she was and what she raised and created in this dynamic, beautiful person that you are.
Thank you.
So what would you say that your mom might lessons learn?
Well, one of the greatest lessons my mom taught me is the power of believing that all things were possible. And she said, todo es posible, all the time. And you know, when you're a kid, you're growing up like, I know, Mom, that's what she said. When you get older, especially when a parent dies, the most powerful voices we hear in our head are those of our parents. At least I feel that's for myself. My mom had all these sayings that would just be like, you know, at the time, just talk, you know, you just, oh, Mom, you know. But you get older, you start to realize that she was very wise. She was very, very wise. And, you know, the lessons that I learned from my mom were the work that I do with migrants, I learned from her. You know, I remember she was a secretary at a recycling center in Tucson. And one day she tells me that there's these, she saw like what she thought were 2 animals in the wash in one of those tubular cement drains that
Correct.
And she kept looking, and finally she realized it was 2 little boys. And she went to go investigate. She found out they were like very, very hungry. So she brought them home. She gave them, you know, the showers, everything that they needed. And they said they were looking for work. So she, you know, she blessed them. We get in the car and we take them to this area called Marana. And she goes and knocks on the door, and, you know, she recognized what a ranch house was from experience, right? She goes, ellos están buscando trabajo, they're looking for work, and you know, I want you to take care of them. I'm putting them in your hands, like if they were her own children. It was very powerful. And you know, I just think that she gave them some money, and that was that, and you just realize what happened to them. You know, I have to figure out, I mean, I have to, you know, it must be that they became very successful in some way, because they were blessed, you know, and I felt my mother blessed them.
Well, thank goodness to your mom and my mom, because they certainly had an effect on us. And so we're going to continue on with the next segment. What a tribute to your mom. What was your mom's name?
My mom's name was Antonia Hernandez.
Antonia Hernandez, muchas gracias. We have this icon, this treasure in our community. So we're going to close this segment, and we'll see you next time on Arizona Barrio Stories with another segment with Damian Figueroa, a social justice activist, artist, filmmaker, singer. He's done it all, and now he's giving back to our community. And we're going to issue a call to action to all of our Arizona Barrio Stories to get out there and support migrants and support working with David on the border. Thank you very much. This is Dr. Jose Leyba with Damian Figueroa, and Arizona Barrio Stories and Latino USA. Hasta la próxima vez. Muchísimas gracias.